I did try to peruse the offerings over the weekend from the WWE because we wanted to give everybody equal time. We wanted to, give everybody a chance to shine. And last week we looked at a lot of AEW. So over the weekend, we had Friday night SmackDown and Monday night Raw, although they ought to really call SmackDown WWE Letdown, because that's the feeling that I get at the end of the thing when I realize that that's all we got. When I start this show, I feel like a kid being made to do his homework. Go to your room and you can't finish till you can't leave and have ice cream till you watch SmackDown. They had a great package with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns to establish their business at the Royal Rumble. We had talked about they confused their main angles on Raw last week because they had Seth against Lashley. But here they did a Seth and Reigns package, and the only thing you saw from Raw last Monday was the Usos super kicking Seth. You didn't know why he was in the ring because they cut out all the Seth and Lashley stuff because they knew it was confusing the issue. But the first segment, the Usos come out and get in the ring, and they do the in-ring introduction of Reigns. And here comes Roman Reigns, and he's doing a long entrance, and he's milking the crowd. And, I mean, he's a star, and I don't want him to rush. I get mad at people for rushing. But by the time that he put the microphone to his mouth to say, "Nashville, acknowledge me," we were 8 minutes into this show. And it wasn't all that nice package. It was the open and the announcers and the interminable entrance and the Usos introduction and the blah, blah, blah. Everything just takes so fucking long. So then he says, "Acknowledge me." And they boo. And one of the Usos pitched to another video of Roman Reigns highlights that they showed on the screen. And it's him beating everybody. Boom, one after another, every name in the company. That's great. That's the way you get over. And this package was incredible. What a video. And they were showing the clock increasing. Bing, bing, bing. 508 days as champion. Great package. But then I'm sitting there realizing the people in the arena are sitting there, and this show has come on the air live now 12 minutes ago, and all the people that paid to see the show live have seen is an entrance and shit on television.
It's like going to the movies, and every now and then they run out and do a little show, and then it's back to the movies.
It's Rocky Horror.
Yeah, exactly.
And so then 12 minutes into the program, Roman Reigns lifts the microphone to his mouth again, and Seth Rollins music hits. And here comes Seth, and he's wearing Reginald Van Gleeson's bathrobe. Google it, kids. It'll be hilarious. I got to say that Seth seems to be having more fun with this than that Monday Night Messiah thing, which was dismal. He has a lot more oomph to him here. But I can't even remember the particulars now because that's been a couple of years and 17 turns ago. But remember when they had him on the edge of being like a mega level babyface when he was coming back from some injury that people knew about? And,
yeah,
he's had 4 or 5 different I don't understand everybody. He changes shows and changes gimmicks, changes personalities, changes presentations. And this, again, there's been a couple times we've said, holy shit, like that Monday Night Messiah. Is it just he's surrounded by jobbers with one name and it's not exciting? I mean, he's a heat-getting smarmy fucker here with these outfits and the way he's having fun with the promos. Maybe can they just let him do this then for a while? Does he have to have a split personality again? So anyway, he tried to stir up a little dissension between the Usos and Roman Reigns. is saying that they're the longest reigning tag team champions, so they ought to be being celebrated instead of all these packages and everything for Roman Reigns, blah, blah, blah. But they're holding Roman Reigns up just like me and Mox did. And he called him Mox, which, of course, then all the smart fans went in a tizzy about.
And he was never called that ever on WWE TV.
Yes, but I think probably Rollins he might have slipped or slipped on purpose, but one or the other. Reigns doesn't sell shit easily that people say to him, and he shouldn't because he's that badass. He's almost unflappable. But he says the Usos won't interfere, and Rollins says, well, how about a tag team match tonight with me and somebody against the Usos, and if they lose, they're barred from ringside at the Royal Rumble. And Reigns ain't thrilled about that. You can see it on his face. He does a great job with the expressions, but he's thinking about it, and one of the Usos jumps in and accepts, and then he's not happy. And then, but well, who's Seth's partner going to be? Of course, here comes Owens' music, and he comes out. And then Reigns says, well, cut that stupid music. When you guys lose tonight, then Seth Rollins, you lose your match at Royal Rumble, and I vacation until WrestleMania. At that point, did anybody think that was going to happen? That he was just going to, okay, I'll just skip the Royal Rumble, Roman Reigns.
No.
So they have to give, obviously, matches on television. Well, I don't say they have to give matches on television that people are interested in because they're not. They're supposed to. But when you put that stipulation on it, then you're just basically say, that's a lazy way of getting into a TV match that they think might get a number in the middle of the show or the end of the show or whatever. I don't believe that stipulation, but nevertheless, Rollins accepted it. And after that, seriously, we're 20 minutes into the show just to get there. And then we come back and they had Happy Corbin and Mosh Pit Jones in the ring. And Mosh Pit had a match with Kofi. And did you see that after that, they announced Summer Rae was introduced at ringside. She's coming back to the Royal Rumble. But they went to the camera shot of her before they introduced her in the arena, right? Did you see this or did you skip this part?
I did not see SmackDown this week.
You didn't see SmackDown? Well, boy, that would have been great. There's Summer Rae, and the camera goes live on her, and she looked like she was smelling a fart. She was looking around like, I don't want to be sitting here with these people. I don't want to be in this building. And then all of a sudden, you see her eyes, the eyebrows go up like somebody's cued her. We're coming to you. They're already on her. And then they start the announcement in the building, and she's smiling and doing the parade wave. Oh, boy. It was a shit-sniffing look if ever I'd seen one. Anyway, so then they rematched Natalya and Aaliyah. Remember a week or two ago, Aaliyah beat Natalya in 3 seconds. Well, this time, they went a little bit longer, but Natalya was disqualified for beating Aaliyah up. She just got her in a corner and started stomping her, beating on her, and wouldn't break, and the referee disqualified it. So they must have Eddie Graham working on these finishes. I've never seen such cutting-edge, provocative, revolutionary wrestling finishes. My God, move over Bill Dundee. Get out of the way, Bill Watts. Yeah, And after that happened, here came Xia Li or whichever Lee.
Xia Li.
Xia Li. You remember Xia Li.
I was a fan of Xia Li.
Well, you wouldn't be now. Because now she comes out. She's going to make a save for poor Aaliyah, right? Because she's Aaliyah's big sister or whatever. But she has to wait for her music. And then on the way down to save the girl that's getting beat up, she has to do a martial arts routine.
What?
It's a martial. It's oh God, what they used to call it in a kata. You know, where they're doing the motions and the kicks and the
on the way to the save.
She's doing it on the way, but not only that. But now, you know, like Matt Riddle has the birds that fly out of his ass on his introduction. Well, now she has fake leaves of bright autumn colors falling from the sky and lightning shooting out of her fingertips when she's making her martial arts motions.
I got to see this.
Oh, yeah, I'm telling you, the ratings for this segment shot up like double just to see this fucking bogus ass bullshit entrance. So yes, leaves fall from the sky, lightning shoots out of her fingertips, nothing that I could detect shot out of her ass like Riddle. And then so all this has happened, these special effects, this computer generated shit, the big save, right? She goes to roll into the ring underneath the bottom rope and got stuck under it. And they had to cut away from her for a second. And when they cut back to her, you see that she's rolled the other way and is regrouping her balance. And she stands up, confronts Natalya, does a reverse spin kick, whiffs it. Natalya sells it in an awkward manner because it just went right past her and fucking tumbled from the ring.
All right.
That was a save for the ages. That was a Mike Furnace save right there.
Mike Furnace.
Mike Furnace. I told you that story.
Him making a save? What's that story?
Well, not a save, but a comeback. Just the goddamn. So Doug Furnace was a big University of Tennessee football hero, right? And the University of Tennessee volunteer football team is the biggest thing in East Tennessee. On the day of a UT football game, their stadium, Neyland Stadium, is the 6th biggest city in the state. That's how big.
Wow.
100,000 people more. That's how big UT football is. Doug Furnace went to college there, and later, and that's why he broke in Continental Wrestling for the Fullers and blah, blah, blah. But after he had become a wrestler and he had his job in Japan and he moved out to San Diego, he would come back to town every so often, especially at holiday time. He still had family there, and his brother Mike, younger brother Mike, also played football at UT with not, let's be honest, nearly the success or notoriety. And also Mike wasn't the world's strongest man, as Doug legitimately, won that title in his powerlifting days. But he played football at UT, and that's good enough for us. Doug called me and said, hey, Mike wants to see about getting into business. I'll come down and work with him. If you guys will train him, I'll come out and work, Knoxville and Johnson City, the big shows with him. And, as a team, and let's see if we can do something. Okay. Because I always got along great with Doug, and what a great guy he was, right? So we trained Mike for a little while, and that's when Tom Pritchard and Jimmy Del Rey were the Heavenly Bodies, and they worked with him. Horner worked with him a while. Mike was not a natural, right? We did a couple of angles with him on TV, just introducing him as a former UT football player who was training to be a wrestler. And, of course, me and the Bodies harassed him. And finally built up for the big Christmas Chaos tag team match, the Furnaces against the Heavenly Bodies. And obviously, because Mike is green, we worked out a few spots with him to shine, but we're going to get the heat on Doug because Mike wasn't experienced enough to sell, and Doug was. And he wanted to give his brother the tag so that Mike could make the big comeback and the attention to be put on him. So it's Christmas in Knoxville, or I think that year, 3,000, whatever people it was. It's a nice crowd. And Mike gets through the first part of the match, and then they get the heat on Doug, and Doug's selling, and he's fighting for the tag. And finally, the Bodies set up for fucking Doug to get away and dive and make that hot tag. And when he tagged Mike, Mike was so excited, the people blew, they cheered. He steps in the ring and runs and dives forward and hits fucking, I think it was Dr. Tom with a flying clothesline. And he ran so fast and was going so fucking hard that when he hit Doc with the flying clothesline, he bounced off of him, landed on the fucking mat, kept rolling, and rolled right under the bottom rope and out on the floor on the other side. From one side to the other in 3 seconds. Whack, boom, and down. And then you see a hand coming up over the apron of the ring like he's trying to pull himself back up. And the people went, wow. But anyway, nevertheless, we got past it. Next on the program on WWE Letdown, Los Lotharios had a match with the Viking Raiders. Then Cruella DeVille was still mad at Naomi. They showed that from Raw. And now Naomi is wrestling on SmackDown, and she had a match with Charlotte. And Naomi, the glowworm, actually, the whole fluorescent, effervescent, what day glow, whatever the phrase is, entrance kind of made me ill. And even though this was Charlotte, I was going to skip it. But then Cruella comes in, and boy, I just love her look. She is just the meanest looking woman that you could possibly imagine. She takes over as referee from Little Nate, Charles Robinson, and takes his shirt and puts it on. She's going to referee. And Adam Pearce is starting to get pissed off about this kind of thing going on because he doesn't feel it's befitting a WWE management person to be picking sides like this. So Charlotte cheap shots Naomi and takes over and beats shit out of her and whatever. And finally she's going for the figure, and this didn't take long. I think from bell to bell, it was 3 or 4 minutes. She goes to step into a figure four, and Naomi kicks Charlotte into Cruella DeVille, who takes a bump to the floor. Naomi hits Charlotte with her finish, but Cruella won't count, and that makes Naomi mad. And then Charlotte got a figure four, and Cruella just rang the bell without Naomi tapping or anything. And there was that.
You know, I always say that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
you.
I'm just saying, you missed it, Brian, is what I was going to say.
Doesn't sound like I missed too much, but you know, Sonya Deville, they should do something with her where she's not an authority figure if she's going to be a heel, because obviously she has some personality. But I think Pierce does a good job of being just an authority figure without an agenda. You kind of need that. Wrestling needs that right now. Just give me a Bob Armstrong. Not that he's Bob Armstrong, but give me an authority figure without an explicit agenda, just trying to get things done the right way.
He doesn't even have to be the babyface necessarily, just he would be the babyface, de facto babyface, because he would be just honest, right? But he's not favoring anybody or do it. That would be, and Adam does a great job, except, and it's not his fault, and what's he going to say? This doesn't work for me, brother. Some of the preposterous
things he says,
things that he has to say, or the preposterous things that are done and said in front of him, that if he was a grown adult with a functioning brain, he would fucking say, what the fuck? You know, but he can't because they won't let him, but he does the best job that he's allowed to do in that. And I wish that his job was like me in TNA when I was the authority figure, and they would let me say whatever the fuck I wanted to say as long as I made all the matches they wanted me to make. Because then he could have a little more fun with it. Anyway, on SmackDown, we were about, at this point, I think somewhere around an hour 10, hour 15 in, right? And here comes Sami Zayn. And old Sami Zayn, and again, I've mentioned that the little prick can be entertaining. He, as El Generico, he could work his ass off. And as a babyface, his body language when he was selling, I told him this one time. I said, you're awesome at selling in a legitimate wrestling match with no tomfoolery. You're just selling as a babyface. You're fucking awesome. And once that he got the Generico gimmick off of him, he could talk. And so he's got a lot going for him. And so, of course, they're doing everything they can to just say, fuck, don't anybody care about this fucking guy. They had him come out in the ring, Brian, and he's got a table set up. And because Johnny Knoxville is in the Royal Rumble, obviously for publicity, they think good publicity. And because they apparently don't care about poor old Sammy, he can look stupid. That's his gimmick. That's his thing, is he does stupid shit and looks stupid. So we'll let him do it. He has to be the one to involve himself with this fucking goof. And by the way, I think I've mentioned that 35 years ago when Jackass was a thing, I thought they were just as stupid then as I do now. So it's not an old man being out of touch. It's an old man remembering that he didn't like the shit from 30 years ago they did the first time. So Sami has a table full of weapons where he's going to prove that he's tougher than Johnny Knoxville, because and they did tell the truth. What did Johnny Knoxville do 30 years ago? Him and his friends, they got famous by doing a bunch of stupid, harmful shit to themselves, right? So he's going to do, and there's on the table, there's handcuffs, and there's billy sticks, and there's a pepper spray, and there's just, I don't know, nunchucks, whatever. But he picks up, Brian, I wish you had seen it. It apparently it was supposed to be like a cattle prod like device. I don't know that they market these on the open market. If this was a real thing, he called it some name like the Diddlator Mach 3, the fucking Shockmaster 6000 or whatever. It honestly looked like one of those things they give old people that are confined to wheelchairs, that if you squeeze the pistol grip, it grabs the can off the shelf. You know what I'm saying? So it's something like that, but it's supposedly a cattle prod like shock stick. And to prove he's tougher than Johnny Knoxville, he's going to use this on himself. And now he's got 25 things spread out on the table. He picks this up. He turns it on. He says, "Oh, that looks like a kind of a high voltage. I'll set it to 1." Like it's got different gradations of settings. And he puts it to his calf. And I swear to God, just like the bogus electrified cage, they played a zap crackle sound effect over the PA, and he sold it. This fucking plastic stick, he sold it like he'd shocked himself, because they played the sound effect over the PA system. And and he's trying not to sell it, but he's selling it, and he falls against the ropes. He's like, "Oh, that was painful." And I'm, my God, it's certainly, this can't go on. And I thought he was going to pick up something else off the table. But instead, he says, "Okay, we're going up to 2 now." He's going to use the same thing. All that other shit on the table never came into play. He puts it to level 2 and says, "Now I'm going to put it straight here." And he puts it to his chest. Like at level 2, he's going to shock himself in the heart. And they again play a fake sound effect over the PA system. And he fucking sells it like he shocked himself in the chest and almost falls out of the ring. And the people were booing. I couldn't tell whether they were booing because he was a heel or they were booing because they just realized they paid to get in this building. And this is what they're seeing. And as he's trying to get himself back together after clear, here comes Johnny Knoxville. And I wrote this: "Johnny Knoxville out, and so am I. Fuck this. I don't know what they did. I don't care." On a alleged wrestling program, this doofus was standing there in the middle of the ring, not only expecting us to believe that he was going to shock himself with a stun gun, but not even like the commitment that a Harley Race or somebody of that nature would have had to their craft. It was a fake stun gun, and they were playing a sound effect. I don't know if Harley would have ever shocked himself with that handheld stun gun he used to carry, but he crackled a few other people's asses from time to time. But so I couldn't take this anymore. I read what happened in the main event on the internet, which was Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens against the Usos. And if the Usos win, then Seth loses his match at Royal Rumble. And if Seth and Steen won, then the Usos would be barred. Well, Seth Rollins hit the curb stomp on one of the Usos, and immediately Reigns came in out of nowhere and Superman punched him. Disqualification. He walked out. The Usos are disqualified, so they're barred at the Royal Rumble, which means they're going to interfere at the Royal Rumble. And that was SmackDown. Oh, and Kid Rock was in the crowd because it was Nashville, another of the several lunatic right-wing assholes in the WWE Hall of Fame. He was drinking a giant beer while some poor kid was sitting on his lap. And I don't know that Kid Rock has kids, And this kid didn't look like the other kid. I think he was trying to babyface himself. Oh, look at me. I love the children. All the little children of the world.
Well, Jim, after an awful show like that, and thank God I didn't watch it, maybe you want to sit down and talk to somebody.
Well, I'll tell you what, you certainly do. Sometimes you need somebody to talk to, or sometimes you need somebody to complain to. Or in my case, it's usually the same thing. But our friends at BetterHelp can serve both purposes. I want to have a reader's testimonial here that I printed out because Mauricio, and this is not the Mrs. wife Maurice, this is Mauricio, and I think he's a guy. But Mauricio
I'm pretty sure that's a guy's name, yeah.
Well, yeah, you can never be sure, but I'm pretty sure. I wouldn't put the farm on it or anything. But anyway, Mauricio says a few months ago, while listening to the podcast, while eating some Magic Spoon frosted cereal and perusing the offerings of Omaha Steaks, you started to segue into a spot for BetterHelp.com. For years, I've been dealing with many personal demons and issues and have only gone through therapy once, and that was during rehab because it was mandatory. One of the ways I had to deal with my depression used to be watching wrestling, but nowadays it depresses me more. But listening to both the experience and the drive-thru have been tremendously helpful for me in dealing with the current state of wrestling. But for all else, I still needed help. So I decided to put my Omaha Steaks order on hold for a minute. And hey, in this instance, I think that's reasonable. And I went to BetterHelp.com. After a few minutes, I was enrolled and awaiting for a match with one of their therapists. In a few days, I was having my first session. Now here I am a few months later, and I've been finding it very helpful for my mental state. I now have 2 healthy ways of dealing with my demons, listening to you and Mr. Last, and he's polite too, and the fine folks over at BetterHelp.com, and I have you to thank. Well, you are entirely welcome, Mauricio. And that's the kind of stuff that we like to hear. And folks, if you want to feel the same way, go to BetterHelp.com. Right now, it's better, H-E-L-P. Remember, I've been saying joining the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional, Brian? Well, now it's joined the over 2 million people. 1 million people just since we've been hooked up with BetterHelp have joined the party here. So we're doing some good. Anyway, if you go to BetterHelp.com/JCE, a special offer for the Cult of Cornette, you can get 10% off your first month's services, as Mauricio, I'm sure, did. 10% off at BetterHelp.com/JCE.